When you speak, your voice is your most important tool. Fortunately, you can learn to use your voice like playing a musical instrument to increase your power and persuasiveness in any conversation or speech that you give. All successful people are excellent communicators. In fact, the work at Harvard University on multiple intelligences concluded that social intelligence, the ability to interact well with others, is the highest paid and most respected intelligence in our society. So how do you communicate more effectively with others?
Now, the first one is a profound communication principle that comes from the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. And the first agreement he teaches in the book is be impeccable with your word. And what that means is to speak with integrity, which means to say what you mean and mean what you say. Now, as I just mentioned, words have the power to create or destroy, and a careless comment can alter a relationship forever. So it's a good idea to choose your words carefully and consider their impact before you put them out there in the world. So before you speak or write, I want you to ask yourself these four questions. Is it necessary? Is it true? Is it kind? And is it helpful? And if you don't get yeses to those questions, then don't say it. You know, when you say frivolous, untrue, mean, or unhelpful things, it doesn't create a sense of trust or connection in the other person you're communicating with. And by the way, the same guideline also goes for the words you say to yourself.
One of the things I observe is simply this. A lot of people are very careless with their language. I mean, the words you use either lift up your energy, the words you use either make you more creative, or the words you use deny your talents. The words you use could reduce your energy. I mean, words have destroyed nations. I mean, think about the great dictators. Their words of hatred, their words of toxicity, their words of breakdown caused the people around them to do sometimes incredibly terrifying acts. And then you look at people like a Nelson Mandela or a Martin Luther King Jr. or a Mother Teresa. You look at the great business builders. You look at humanitarians. You look at a lot of the great artists, and they were so careful with their words. And their words lifted people up. And that's really what great leaders do. They use the language of leadership. You look at a victim, and they say things like, this is a problem. I've got a problem right here. Or I'm really scared about this. Or I hate that client. Or I hate this work. Or I'm sick of this day. Or I'm exhausted. Or I don't like that. Or she never likes me. It's literally the language of toxicity. And the words you use really are like a context or a framework or a stained glass window on the way you see the world. I mean, here's a game-changing insight. You see the world not as it is, you see the world as you are. You see the world through a lens, and your language forms that lens of belief. And I see this everywhere. Someone very close to me who was a little sloppy with her languaging said, oh, I forgot to do this. It's not on my to-do list. I should punch myself in the face. If you say that every day, what's that doing to your self-esteem? If you say that over a lifetime, what's that doing to your self-identity? And as you know, your income is a function of your self-identity. And your performance is a reflection of your personal story. And the way you build your self-architecture and the way you see yourself in the world is in part through your words. You're never going to rise any higher in terms of your impact in the world than the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as average, well, you're not going to read the books, go to the events, do the study, put in the training time, find the mentors, do the work to rise to world class, because you're running an interior psychological story that says you're average and the A players are somehow different from you. If deep down inside you're coming from scarcity and you think, you know what, I'll never have more than the salary that I'm making, because of the story that you have through the words you've used, well, then you're not going to go out there and ask for the big order. You're not going to go start the big business. You're not going to read the books on financial mastery, because deep inside you would say, what would be the point? I'm not one of those people. And if you want to rewire your self-identity So you go out in the world and you're literally operating at legendary, then you absolutely must dial into this first point of what legendary leaders do in terms of the way they speak, which is get your precision of languaging right. Because like I say, the great leaders, how did they transform humanity? It was through their words. How did the great military generals get their armies to go out there on fire? It was through their words. So calibrate your languaging so your words to yourself are world class. And also the words you use to your team, to your customers, to your loved ones. So incredibly important. If you look at the 95% card-carrying members of the cult of mediocrity, they're so sloppy with their languaging. Don't be silly. I hate that customer. This job is going to make me sick. And they repeat it over and over, and then they wonder why they have an illness 10 or 15 years down the road.
And this leads me to the next communication skill that's probably the most critical skill for everyone on the planet to master. And that is the skill of effective listening. Now, the undeniable truth is that so many of us are terrible listeners. We pretend we're listening, but we're really just thinking about what we're going to say next. We're rehearsing. We're so worried about getting our point across that we pay very little attention to what the other person is trying to say. And there can never be effective communication without both parties being as focused on the listening part as they are on the speaking part. Because if you aren't really listening and responding to what the other person is actually saying, ultimately all you're really doing is having a conversation with yourself. Now here's an invaluable tip. Whenever you're having an important conversation, could be with your spouse or your partner, with a child, with an employee or a customer, or someone on the other side of the political divide, let them go first. Don't interrupt them and argue with them. Let them empty themselves out first. Remember this, you can't pour water into a full glass. You have to let the water out before you can have more put in. Instead, really listen to their point of view. Be curious. How is it that they've come to feel this way, to have this point of view? What is it that they are needing you to hear? Now, this takes a commitment to really want to know what the other person is experiencing and needing. And I can tell you from my experiences having worked with couples, corporate teams, and diverse community groups, it takes time for people to really feel they've been heard. But if you invest the time and the intention to do that, they will then be ready to hear you and what you're experiencing, what you're needing, and what you're wanting. And by the way, a really great technique you can use to facilitate and practice this kind of listening is a technique we call a heart talk. Now, in a heart talk, whether it's between two people, like a husband and wife, or a group of people sitting in a circle at a staff meeting, the person who is speaking holds a physical object like a ball or a stuffed animal or a water bottle and talks for as long as they need to about the topic at hand without anyone interrupting them, disagreeing with them, or stealing the focus until that person is totally complete with whatever they want to say. And then the person passes the object to the other person or to the next person in the group. Now let me say one more thing about when in doubt, check it out. Sometimes when you've done your best to listen closely to someone, you may not have heard exactly what it was they were trying to say. And that's why it's so important for you to double check and make sure you really understood them correctly. And the easiest way to do that is before you speak to say, so what I'm hearing you say is, and then repeat back to them what you think they were saying, what they meant to say. And then give them the opportunity to clarify any misunderstandings that you might have before you respond to them. So it's always best to make sure you're really responding to what they're really saying instead of what you think they're saying.
Number 3, speak your truth even when your voice shakes. The conversation you are most resisting is the conversation you most need to have. What do I mean by that? Well, all too often, we get hurt by someone or we get upset by someone. It could be a work colleague, it could be at home in our family life. And we are almost taught by society not to speak up. We are afraid, of being laughed at. People could think we're weird, we could fail. And a lot of us, we think, well, we could lose the relationship and end up alone. It's fear. And so what it is, it's almost like non-communication born of fear. But the most effective human beings on the planet all have one thing in common, and they speak up and they share their truth. And the more you practice, again, The quality of your performance is all about the quality of your practice. And the more you actually practice speaking up when you know you want to speak up, the more you will actually step into your next level of power. And the more you actually betray yourself by not speaking up when maybe someone in a restaurant is serving you and they're not being polite, or maybe a client is being disrespectful, or maybe someone on the street is doing something that is dishonoring your humanity. Every single time you swallow what you most need to say, you actually lose power. You actually become more and more impotent as a human being. I mean, because you know this, we give away our power to the things that we avoid. The hard talks, when you actually speak up, are when you grow in power. And you actually not only grow in power, you build intimacy in the relationship. I mean, just think about it. When you actually speak up with someone and you tell them how you're feeling and you tell them what's most important to you, well, if it's the right relationship, one that's meant to be in your life, whether it's professional or personal, that is really a gateway into the other person having the permission to open up as well. And then you have two mature people talking about what's really most important versus sidestepping the truth. Remember this incredibly important brain tattoo. You can say whatever you want so long as you say it with respect. I mean, if someone has been rude to you in a coffee shop, if your friend is late for dinner and it's important to you that they're on time, well, if you lash out at them and say, "Why were you late? I'm angry," that's going to put them into attack mode, which is going to cause them to be defensive. But if you say to them, Johnny or Ravi, whatever their name is, if you say, "You know what, thank you so much for joining me for dinner. Before we get started and enjoy this incredible meal, if I may, I'd just like to share something with deep respect. Punctuality is so important to me, and I've been waiting here for half an hour, and your time is valuable, and my time is valuable. And I'd be ever so grateful if when we get together, you would respect my time just like I want to respect your time." You've said it with respect. Look how powerful that is. And if it is a healthy person versus a toxic person, they're going to appreciate you being so truthful. And you're also going to teach them the punctuality matters. So the second tactic is you can say whatever you want to a teammate, to an employee, to a customer, to a family member, so long as you say it with love and respect.
Here's some of the best advice I have on worry. First, don't be afraid to face the facts of life. It is not negative to understand that the winters always come. Don't be faked out. Don't clip the word impossible out of the dictionary. Don't say, "I don't want to hear the problem. I don't want to see the difficulty. Don't show me the weeds. Don't say anything negative. Only see the positive." That's foolish. There is a thin line between positive thinking and kidding yourself. And remember, there's also a thin line between faith and folly. Here is the key. Humans have the unique ability to see it as it is, and they also have the ability to see it better than it is. One is called fact, the other is called faith. Faith you develop, facts you acquire. The facts you acquire are essential. It's like belief. You constantly must find facts to support your belief. Faith says, "I will move mountains." It doesn't say, "I will move mountains if someone gives me a bulldozer. I'll move a mountain if they will build me a road up there, if the weather's nice, if they give me a shovel." Faith just says, "I will move mountains." Faith doesn't ask for a result to prove its existence. Faith is because it is. And remember, people die for faith. And some people give up everything they own, their life, for faith. Here is a good prayer. Help me to see it as it is, and help me to see it better than it is, and then inspire me to act. Facts and faith and action. What a combination for personal progress. And action puts fear to flight. An Old Testament phrase says, "Watch the ants. You sluggard, consider their ways and be wise. Not a bad suggestion. The second major key to mastering worry is to respond. Build up inside of you that heavy desire to be free, to get on with building your life and lifestyle. Too much is waiting to delay. Take a new look at your opportunities. Figure out new ways to seize them immediately and make them work for you. And here is a key. Bring a new dedication that you will master yourself with enough discipline to be more than qualified to do the present job and prepare yourself for the next move up. Expose yourself to every stimulation possible that will put all this in perspective. Now let's move on to a very important point, and that is the best answer to worry is confidence. First, self-confidence. I can better handle next winter. I have a strong shelter. It is stocked with supplies. I now know how to take advantage of the spring. I'm going to plant better crops and bigger crops. I can last through the summer. I won't quit this time. I'll study weeds and how to get rid of them. I'll be less frightened of the changing weather and the quick storms. In the fall, I will exercise more care and reap what I have without complaint and blame nothing for the amount of my harvest. I'll learn to save a fair portion so that I can survive the bad seasons when out of control the hailstorm comes and it all goes wrong. Now we must consider this. The most fatal deterrent to self-confidence is guilt. Not doing all you know how to do to the full extent of your present ability weakens the foundation for confidence. The biggest part of worry comes from the lack of this personal confidence. And lack of confidence comes from two major things. First, no goals or plans. And second, no daily discipline to achieve. The inaction to cure or handle small tasks is what starts the guilt process. And that always tends to make you look at what's wrong and expect the worst. So listen to the voices of creative experience. Let nature, experience, wisdom, books, everything speak to you and teach you. Remember, both opportunity and challenge await action. Everything yields to diligence. It's not what you can do, it's what you will do that counts. And undeveloped ability comes from three problems. First, lack of inspiration to find out. Second, lack of reasons to learn. And third, lack of applied time and action for developing those abilities. And so we come right back to the theme of our entire enterprise, self-development. Learn to work harder on yourself than anything else. The key to all success in economics or mental health is self-development. It will all change for the better when you change for the better. It's what you become that really counts, and you are the only variable. So a good statement is, you can't be all positive. You can't be all confident. You can't be all faith. But confidence and faith and courage and inspiration can dominate worry and fear. Physical and emotional forces are always at work, and something will win and conquer. Make sure you give yourself the best chance to get mental and emotional domination over all of your challenges. And here is one of the master keys to the good life. Developing the intelligence and accepting the challenge of putting all of your emotional experience into their rightful ratio. Beginning this progress can bring about the most dramatic changes. Say first, I've had it with worry. I'm tired of being beaten down and hassled with all those negative mental pictures. I refuse to be tricked by false facts. I'm really not that weak. Never again do I want those sick feelings inside, those mental false alarms. I'm tired of the drain on my resources. I'm tired of the embarrassment of the lack of confidence. I don't want people, especially my family, to see me in this state anymore. I've got more to offer. I refuse to let my life be short-circuited any longer by letting my mind run wild with a distorted view of the facts, whether I bring it up or if it comes from someone else. Prove it to yourself. Remember, humans are remarkable, a marvelously functioning entity. Imagine how uniquely your body and mind have survived and managed to function in spite of all the worry. Humans don't die easy, they die hard. Develop a plan for your life rather than aimlessly drifting through it, the victim of circumstance. Create your own environment and learn to control it. You control your own mental environment by developing yourself. So go on a crash program to clean up decisions, get things done, get other things set up and started and organized. Start doing all the things that would make you feel better. Exercise, diet, reading more books. Open a floodgate of positive moves in the right direction, and be thankful. Add up what you do have. Make an actual as well as a conscious mental list of all you possess, tangible as well as intangible. In view of the 4 billion other inhabitants of the world, yours is probably an incredible list. That list and being thankful should then lead to the big step of discipline. The discipline to sit up and listen, the discipline to pay attention, the discipline to give people and kids the gift of your attention, the discipline to be alert, take care of yourself, rest, eat properly, the discipline to talk well and practice good manners. Courtesy is contagious. Take one day and see what a variety of positive steps you can take and projects you can take on. At the end of the day, go over it. Write out the positive steps, the progress on projects, the rest, the exercise, the meals, the hobbies, calls, records, conversations, and letters. Then have a friend help you, as one helped me, to get all the facts and prepare for action. From such a friendship, the greatest gift you can draw is the truth. So talk to yourself right now into a change of attitude. Be persuasive. Go all out. Show yourself the hell if you don't, and the good life of answers and progress if you do. Say to yourself, what a fantastic feeling it must be to stop the panic drain on my mental energy, emotion, and physical strength. Imagine putting all that saved energy and emotion and strength into my action plans for the good life. Hey, accept the challenge. Believe your beliefs, doubt your doubts, stay on the campaign to give worry a bad time. Like being your own conscientious judge, say, I've had it with the presentation of a one-sided story. I sustain the objection that worry has failed to bring out all the facts. I despise these mental courtroom maneuvers that try to belittle my client, me. I demand the whole truth. And if worry will not be silent, I may cite him for contempt of the court of reason. Call up that scene often when worry wants to hassle you with the same old tricks and the same old results. It will work every time.
Need a little pick-me-up today? Welcome to the new Fresh Motivation app, where you'll find daily motivation, daily quotes. Listen to your favorite speeches in the background or with a black screen, so nothing interrupts your motivational moment, where you can create your personal profile, create playlists of your favorite speeches and quotes, add personal notes, and start setting goals. Fresh Motivation, the home of motivation. Get it now for free on Google Play.